I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. Whatever. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Office Hours live stream. Hopefully you guys had a great week. Hopefully you're ready for a great weekend. I know I am. I know most people's weekend starts Friday, I get it, but for me it's Saturday. That's the weekend beginning. So here we are. Welcome to the chat. So we got Eldridge Fan popping in first. Yeah, I think Ghost Planet Maxine had said he was going to be away for a little bit, but I hope he'll be back. But yeah, he's always there first, right? So left room for somebody else to get first in for a chance. Private Eye in Retrospectiva, welcome. Imaginative Hobbyists, Enzolo. Excuse me. Electric Barbarella. Imaginative, oh yeah, I said that. You guys chatting back and forth. Oha Singh, Ace Moic, good to see you. Imaginative Hobbyists, yeah, thanks for the super chat. But yeah, rest in peace, Val Kilmer and Gene Hackman. Yeah, I didn't talk about Gene Hackman. Of course, that's tragic. Very sad. And rest in peace, Gene Hackman. Really weird way they, found he and his wife too, and we're kind of wondering, was some sort of something like Alzheimer's or dementia at play? Who knows? That was sad. So, and he deserves to be celebrated. Certainly as the first on-screen Lex Luthor. And he was great in those movies, wonderful in those movies. He didn't necessarily define the character for me. Like, he wasn't to Lex Luthor what Christopher Reeve was to Superman, but he was still great in those movies, really great. And yeah, and those are just, the Superman movies, to say nothing of his vast and varied career. So yeah. Val Kilmer, though, I actually meant this week to record a little tribute to Val Kilmer. The screen froze there. Val Kilmer is another one of those actors for me, kind of like Johnny Depp, who just defined my childhood with so many awesome roles, awesome roles that I follow, that I enjoy, that I watch. Think about Val Kilmer of as a middle school or even elementary school, like 5th grade. I remember snickering with my friends to Real Genius or Top Secret, the spy movie he did. Those were funny. Of course, he's Mad Mardigan and Willow. That's freaking awesome. Mad Mardigan. I was never really a Top Gun guy, but of course he's known for that. But I loved him in Batman. I thought he was a great Batman. If you had to have a replacement, Michael Keaton definitely wasn't coming back. I thought Val Kilmer was fine in the role. I thought he did quite well. And Jim Morrison of The Doors, and to actually sing, those roles, that was amazing. And of course, perhaps most iconically is Doc Holliday in the wonderful epic Tombstone. So yeah, he's just that's he deserves to be celebrated, absolutely. And actors like him are rare. Maybe they don't get in the. I do put him in the same book as like a Johnny Depp. I think they deserve a lot more credit for their acting and for the craft than they typically get. But they're actors who maybe aren't necessarily celebrated as the pinnacle of the acting craft, or the best actors ever, but they end up doing roles that just touch people, that people love, that are fun, that really entertain and really stick with people. So I love that. I mean, I throw Michael Keaton into that lot as well. um yeah, that was a bummer, but he'd been dealing with his disease for a while. I'm glad he's no longer in pain, obviously, but that was sad to hear. Stephen M, welcome. Crystal Ashes, good to see you. My dear sound engraver, yeah, we're both kind of on the gimpy hand list. I've been dealing with some carpal tunnel or something. I need to go see a doctor about it properly, but with all the grading and the typing and whatnot, my hands really been acting up there, the tendons and whatnot. But poor sound engraver took a little fall today. And she was daydreaming, she said, and wasn't paying attention to where she was going, and she tripped over a curb and really skinned up that meaty part of her hand. It was rough. We've been trying to dress it for her and keep the Neosporin on it and whatever. But she's not going to be perhaps the most active in the chat, but she's good. She's fine. She's not dying or anything. Her hand's not gashed open or anything like that, but pretty painful, I imagine. Let's see. Leia Plus Size is here. Mark Baker. Yes, Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of our time. And he gave us a Lex Luthor who was not a stand-in for some politician, like the Lex Luthor is going to be a stand-in for Donald Trump in James Gunn's crappy movie coming up here. Did I say that out loud? Horrid Films, welcome. Interesting. You say, to me, Val is arguably the best live-action Batman, the most like Kevin Conroy. I never thought about that. I need to watch that movie again and really be able to, because it's been a while since I've seen it. But I never hated Batman Forever. I thought Batman Forever was a fine movie. Of course, it was the first initial step away from that Tim Burton feel, and it was the first initial step away from Keaton's Batman and everything. So of course there was a little bit of I remember just back in the day going to see it, but it was not in any way this is just crap, this is garbage. It wasn't Batman and Robin, right? That's what I'm trying to say. There were a lot of good things about it. And, there's a whole story about the drama behind the movie and whatnot, too. Things that Schumacher wasn't allowed to do. And there's the elusive director's cut that maybe is out there, maybe isn't, and who knows. But it was still fun. It was still a fun Batman movie. Yeah, it started to swerve a little bit more towards the silly, childish stuff for, being under Schumacher's direction. But I really think it was the studio more. I don't like it when people crap on Schumacher for that. Because, yeah, he helmed it, and he deserves. I'm not saying he's blameless by any means, but it was the studio that pushed for that. I mean, Schumacher gave us Lost Boys, for crying out loud. I think if he'd been allowed or allowed to have his kind of own reign over a Batman movie, I think it could have been great. It was just all those, it was Oprah Winfrey and all those simpy, gimpy, dumbass little parents who complained about Batman Returns is so dark, it scared our kids. You can go, I remember the Oprah Winfrey show, and interviewing children it really scared me. Stupid kids. Anyway. Let's see. Michael Scambati becoming a channel member again. Great to see you there. Yeah, I know if you're like me, kind of channel memberships have to sort of come and go. Depending on budget-wise and everything. But since you posted that here, I'll give you your comment to go. You said, did you like the Arkham Asylum's Arkham City and Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight games, or are they too dark for you? I loved Batman Arkham Asylum. Is probably one of the best games ever. I've talked about this before. Batman Arkham City is a great sequel. Batman Arkham Origins is awesome. It really is a great game. It's underrated. I think people don't give it its due. Arkham Knight really started to fall apart. I think Arkham Knight did cross the line to a bit too dark for me. Definitely, really dark actually. If you go into the additional what's the word? The additional material, like if you read the little case files behind the villains and stuff, like the stuff with Professor Pig, they go way too dark. But my biggest gripe with Arkham Knight is that it was just the writing just really was subpar. Great ideas in it, really great ideas, but it was the first game. Well, Arkham Origins was the first game without Paul Dini, but Paul Dini was never going to do Arkham Origins. You know, Arkham Origins was WB Montreal doing a prequel game. They were working with Jeff Johns and whatnot, and they ended up doing a great job. Paul Dini should have been allowed to finish out his trilogy of the story, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight, if that's what it was going to be for him. But Rocksteady got way too big for their britches and decided, we've been doing this enough, we can write this game. And turns out you can't, because that game, the story-wise, just kind of fell apart. I still play it. It's fun. The gameplay's fun. The gameplay of Batman is great fun. I'm not saying it's a crap game and I'll never touch it or anything like that. I'm just saying it's a real letdown coming at the end of the great Asylum and City for me. But anyway, that's the best answer I got for you there. I think I got everybody in here. Dr. Y. Got another super chat here, though. Studios 96 Films. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. He said, James Gunn's Superman footage tells me all I need to know. I know. And, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. People have decided. They've just decided that this is an awesome movie and it's going to be their Superman going forward. I mean, just the teaser trailer came out. And I already started getting those, inevitable messages on my many videos where I point out all the things James Gunn says about his approach to Superman, says about his understanding of Superman, how it's completely wrong. And they're like, this video didn't age well. Did you see that trailer? It's amazing. So they've already accepted, they've already pretending that this movie's going to be great. And you can already see it. I mean, even in the recent reveals, they tried to make that scene in the original teasers where he calls Crypto and Crypto helps him, No, see, it's a big silly joke now. They've given you the whole scene in the further trailers, and as Crypto shows up and smacks Superman around, he's like, no, just take my cape or whatever. It's James Gunn has got a very specific style of humor, to say nothing of his complete and total inability to understand Superman. He has a very specific type of humor. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy style humor, and it's great for something like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's horrible for something like Superman, and we're starting to see more and more of it with the more trailers that are coming out. And James Gunn is a Trump derangement syndrome candidate, just as the rest of them in Hollywood. And so you're going to see that in the movie, absolutely. You've already seen it coming through a little bit in his, explanations. Well, Superman's beaten up and bloody because that's kind of the state of our country right now, and whatever. But it doesn't matter. People have decided it's going to be great, and you're so stupid, prof. It'll be another Aquaman. I'll be the only one who stands up and say, this is garbage. That's not how to treat the character. And everybody will be like, you're incredibly insane. This is amazing. And then, a few months later, no one gives a crap about the Aquaman movie. No one. But it's just the shiny new penny that everybody's got to pretend is just the most amazeballs thing ever. Imaginative Hobbyist, $5. Thank you very much. Said, as a Dune fan, thoughts on what could have been Andrei Jodorowsky's version? Have you ever seen the documentary? No, I know nothing about that, actually. I love the novel Dune, and in the next 2 books, that's all I've read. And I like the David Lynch film for what it is. It's he should have had the chance to make it better without a lot of studio interventions and whatever, or meddling. But that's all I know about it. No, the sci-fi miniseries Children of Dune, I think it's called, was good. Never bothered watching the new Dune movies because that's not Dune. You don't start cross gender casting and pretending that it's not a big deal, though. It's not a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Do you understand the book? Do you understand the themes? It's a big deal. Crystal Ashes, thank you for the super chat there. So honestly, I also find the Arkham Knight to be the weakest in terms of gameplay. That game is basically 30% excellent combat and stealth mechanics, and 70% generic tank. You're absolutely right. It was way too freaking much Batmobile. That got really annoying really fast. Even when I do replay it, it's so in the Riddler challenges where you got to do this Batmobile. It's like, I'm not in a racing game. I'm in a Batman game. And that's not the Batmobile. That's a tank. They did the whole Chris Nolan version of it, which is silly. Yeah. Imaginative Hobbyist says, I heard Crypto is Supergirl's dog in the movie. Wouldn't surprise me. I haven't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. Studio Super said, thank you for the super chat there, said, I found Tyrone's reaction to the sneak peek spot on my reaction. Onto my reaction. When it came to that part, he got up mid-reaction, started cussing up a storm in the hallway, and was going, "This is stupid." Who's Tyrone? Is this a YouTuber or something I don't know about? I'm not quite sure who that is, but yeah, I don't, everything that Gunn has said about Superman and has shown us about his movie, it just looks like the absolute wrong take. Now there are a lot of really cool little frostings and sprinkles that look like the real Superman. The music, the font, and the whatever his name is. Cornsweat does a really great Clark. Apparently, or it looks like anyway, from the couple of shots of him that we've seen, that kind of harkens back to Reeve. But no, that's not enough. That's not enough. The packaging on the outside is not what makes Superman. It's the true heart of the character and the film and the story. So yeah. Dr. Y Design says, this is a good segue. That's not, sorry, Mark, got your, said, speaking of gender swapping, did you hear that Meryl Streep is in talks to voice Aslan in Netflix Narnia? I did hear that. And let me share my screen here. Let's see. So I just did this post the other day on the community post on YouTube here. And that's the news story there, right? Meryl Streep in talks to play Aslan in Greta Gerwig in Netflix's Narnia movie. And my caption to the picture was, "To all of you who parroted, Barbie was actually Ken's movie, guys. You did this." And of course that just, "How dare you," ruffled some feathers. Now, obviously, I'm being a little facetious with that, right? I mean, only God knows exactly how many ticket sales the anti-woke YouTubers inspired for Barbie by doing their whole, Mean Girls treatment of it. Ha, they meant to be this, but it's actually Ken's movie. Go see it, My point is that you don't get to be outraged about this when you contributed to the success of her previous film. Sir Torin Clegane, if I'm even pronouncing his name right, I've known him forever here, but he had a comment and he gave me an opportunity to actually clarify a little bit. He said, "I don't know, I don't really think it matters if Barbie was successful or not. Greta Gerwig was always going to get work because she has the right politics." And I said, it's possible, but we'll never really know. I said, but it bugs me, and it's really straight off pisses me off. It bugs me how both the Barbie and the Snow White films came from the same place, wanting to subvert a beloved franchise to preach an agenda. That's both of those movies. Both Barbie and Snow White came from that same place at the very inception of the film. The anti-woke brigade saw Margot Robbie trotting around in tight outfits and proclaimed how important it was to give it a chance, and lo and behold, it actually subverted its intended subversion, encouraging their followers to go see it, just to laugh at it as though Hollywood cares why they bought their ticket. But then Lord Farquaad comes out and prances around in a Snow White dress, and suddenly they all pat themselves on the back for taking that woke atrocity down, and it's Hollywood any YouTube revenue. It's the hypocrisy of these channels is astounding, because they've already said in their minds they took down Snow White, and they started taking it down before it was even released. They never just went to go see Snow White to give it a chance. No, the crap that they knew about that movie beforehand was enough for them to say, that's crap, that needs to go. And they did it. They took it down. Go back to Barbie now. Oh, well, I mean, we gave it a chance, and hey, it didn't matter what we say or not. That movie was gonna be successful. No, we only have power when we want to have power, and it's a good narrative for us and gets more clicks on our channels. Oh no, Barbie was gonna get more work no matter what we did. Well, which is it? Do you have the power to take down big bad Hollywood movies or not? And it really bugs me, just the sheer insincerity, the lack of integrity, and the hypocrisy of these channels. I'm thrilled that Snow White is a failure. Barbie should have been a failure. And I don't know if the anti-woke brigade shut up about their Barbie was actually Ken's movie, guys. If they had shut up about that, if that would have helped or hurt the movie or not, I don't know. But the fact that they did that just still pisses me off. So yeah, it's no wonder to me that we've got Greta Gerwig's Narnia here. Whether Meryl Streep's in talks, whether or not it actually comes to fruition or not, or whether or not they actually hire a woman or not. Who cares? Please, for the love of God, do not give this movie a chance. It doesn't deserve it. But you're going to see a lot of those channels. Well, we got to watch it and we got to be fair and we got to review it. Again, flip flop, whichever side of the narrative gets us the clicks. It's just pisses me off. All right. Done there. Add my rant. Let me catch up to the super chats and Eldridge fan for $4.99 said, I know a guy who hates Disney Star Wars but simps hard for Dune. If he wanted sci-fi desert girl boss, he should have made that and not called it Dune. I 100% agree, and you're absolutely right. You get a lot of these people, a lot of the people who are like the anti-Disney or whatever. They're more about the joiner mentality. They're more about, as I've said, they want to find the community. I remember when I called out Siege of Mandalore, the Clone Wars Season 7 Siege of Mandalore nonsense arc where Ahsoka's, taking out she's going after Maw and simping him like a little, biatch or whatever and all this garbage stuff. It was a horrible, horrible arc. It was 100% the beginnings of the modern Mary suing of Ahsoka Tano. And a lot of people just thought I was ridiculous for saying that. One guy kept calling me out on Twitter. He's like, well, Thor Skywalker liked it. What the frick does Thor Skywalker have to do with me? But in his mind, you see, at least at that time, I don't follow Thor Skywalker, so I don't even know where he is now. But at least at that time, Thor Skywalker was also part of the fandom menace, or at least thought to be by this guy or whatever. And I was supposed to get in line. Look, I'm one of you. He actually wrote, like, I'm on your side. You need to accept the narrative. This is what we've all agreed upon. No. How about you just call out the truth instead of worrying about your club membership? Really annoying. Imaginative Hobbyist for $5, thank you so much, said Jodorowsky's Dune would have been the most ambitious sci-fi movie ever made. Many things being created for it would influence Star Wars and Alien. Yeah, I had no idea about that. I love the Dune novel, but I'm really not an expert on Dune in media and in the history of it and the films and whatnot, so I don't really know much about that at all. But I'll look that up. It sounds interesting. Eldritch Fan also said, Paul wasn't a fake savior. He and Leto II legitimately saved the universe. It didn't need to be fixed or clarified. The point of Dune is that, point of Dune, you say, is that heroes are saviors, but are scary but necessary. I mean, I think you're definitely onto something. I don't know if I would say the point is that they're necessary. I mean, in some ways they are, though. But yeah, Frank Herbert he wrote Dune inspired in many ways by how horrified he was at people's hero worship of JFK. He did not like the idea of people hero worshiping political leaders. He thought that was very, very dangerous. But yeah. Sally Graver braved her hand wound to come right. Thor, he loves Disney. Yeah, I don't follow Thor Skywalker, but I think he still follows all the stuff. Eldritch Fan for $1.99, seeing Twink Paul was enough for me to pass on it. I'm trying to find the highlighted Crystal Ashes just gave. Oh, there it is. Crystal Ashes gifted 5 Professor Geek memberships. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Always appreciate it. All right. So, yeah, I agree, Eldritch Fan. I mean, Paul in the books, Paul was needed. Paul and Leto II, they needed to do what they did. If they didn't, yeah, it was bad things were going to happen. Definitely. In terms of what I've been reading and whatnot this week, I hadn't had as much time as I thought this week. I've had some, but I'm still about only halfway through with Dark Apprentice, the second book in the Jedi Academy trilogy. So I'm still working on that. I'll finish that and talk about that. I am, I think, over halfway finished, though, with Yoda Dark Rendezvous, and that's blowing my mind. That's really cool so far. So I think that'll probably, unless it completely disappoints me by the end, that'll probably be the book we do the book study of next. but really enjoying that so far. So that's fun. That's the Star Wars stuff that I was working on. I do have a couple things to talk about though, review wise, that I will in a second here. But Enzolo for 999, appreciate it, said, off topic, how do you feel about the King of Kings movie coming out soon? In a time where films like this are in short supply, do you fear that it would be too preachy like other Christian movies? I don't know. I don't know much about the King of Kings movie. It doesn't necessarily have to be a preachy film. I mean, the Christmas movie that was called, I think it's called The Star. That was a great film. I still watch that every couple Christmases or whatever. It was a great film. I've seen some of the clips or advertisements of King of Kings movie. I don't necessarily gravitate towards those movies. They're not necessarily on my must-see list. Not because I think they're bad or anything, or they're definitely going to be bad. I don't mind that movies are made about biblical stories or content from the Bible, and hey, if you're a Christian like I am, you believe that, many of those things actually happen, so I don't mind movies made and dramatizations made about that, but I don't think that's what, film culture needs. I think even from a Christian perspective of, hey, we want to even from just purely, hey, we want to preach the gospel perspective. When it comes to stories and movies, I think the real magic and the real power of stories and movies is to be able to recontextualize and create fictions and let those fictions do the philosophical work and the talk and the messaging and whatever. And messaging, I'm saying that just as this word that slipped in there because I don't believe in propaganda. And you guys know as how I feel about a lot of those Christian movies. So I don't know. I don't know enough about King of Kings. I don't even know if I'll see it. But again, that's no criticism against it or whatever. It's just Bible movies don't really appeal to me all that much. I don't need it dramatized. I know the Bible. I don't need it acted out on the screen. But yeah, maybe if it does it for some people, great. No problem with it there. A friend of y'all was doing Star Wars Scoundrels. I love Star Wars Scoundrels. I heard some people really didn't like that. I don't know why. I thought it was great. The other things that I watched. Now I did say was it last week? Yeah, I think it was last week. I said that when I was watching X-Files and Millennium that I was up to finish season 2 of Millennium. I talked about that. And I'd finished season 5 of X-Files, so I was going to watch Fight the Future for the first time, the film. And I watched that after the stream last time, and I was kind of expecting a little bit. I was bracing myself to be disappointed because I'd heard from some people, some X-Files fans or whatever, that they weren't too happy with one of the X-Files movies or whatever. I think they were talking about a later X-Files film. This movie was amazing. Fight the Future, I absolutely loved it. I thought this X-Files movie was everything that it should have been. Because it's a rare case. It's a rare case that you have a long-running series. X-Files have been on for 5 seasons. That's past the syndication mark. That's way past where they get their 100th episode mark, So that's a lot of series hardly ever get to 5 series. And X-Files was so popular that they knew they were going to have a season 6. But they were so popular that they said, hey, before season 6, let's go ahead and bust out a feature-length, film to be released in theaters. That's a big deal. And, how would you really fit that film? How would you tell the story of it in a way that general audiences who maybe aren't watching every episode of the show can still go and experience a good story, but fans can also see it carry over and bridge the gap between seasons and so forth. And it did it so well. It answered the cliffhanger problem that was set up at the end of season 5. Now, I haven't watched the first part of season 6 yet, so I'll see how it ebbs in there a little bit. But it, I can imagine, I remember, people, fans, friends of mine, whoever who had gone to see it back in the day, some of them being very pleased with the way it sort of, and then you had the tension between Mulder and Scully, and there's the almost kiss or whatever, and also I was telling Sound Engraver, I miss when movies actually looked pleasant to look at. that they were aesthetically pleasing to look at in terms of the cinematography, in terms of the camera work, the filters, the tent and everything, the lighting. It's been a long time since modern movies have been remotely anything you would call gorgeous. And I don't care even if it's a movie you love. Maybe you love the new Deadpool movie or whatever. All those movies look like garbage. Just the aesthetic, just the look of them. Because modern day filmmakers, and it doesn't even have to do with, the difference between film or digital or the types of cameras or whatever. The biggest issue is that there's really just no cinematography in modern films. Everybody's saving or not wanting to put too much into it because we gotta save room for the green screen. We gotta save room for the computer to fill in all of the crap that we're too lazy to pay for or too dumb to have practical effects for or whatever. That's just modern movie making. It's all saved for the green screen and for the computer. And there are a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about this in way more technical know-how than I have, about it. But movies just look so ugly. They look so ugly. And it was really fun to watch this movie from, 97 or whatever, when I was in high school. And it's like, man, you used to go to the theater and regardless of the story, visually, it was a real treat, because you had a lot of cinematographers who still know what they were doing. And it's just, that's why I just don't see new stuff. I really don't. I took a chance seeing Beetlejuice 2. And I didn't have to after the fact. I'm kind of glad I saw it, but it wasn't great. There's just no point for me going to a theater anymore. It really isn't. It's kind of like video games. Like they still haven't given me a reason to buy an Xbox, whatever the new Xboxes are, the S series or whatever, or a PS6 or PS5 rather. I have no desire. Make a game worth of crap that I want to play. Maybe I'll buy a new console. But the graphics are better. You can even play your old games in better graphics. There's nothing wrong with the graphics. I just finished replaying Knights of the Old Republic again, just on my Xbox. And it's 2002. It doesn't have the, same mechanics and graphics and whatever, but nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. If the story's good and the gameplay's good, you'll immerse yourself right in there. It's fine. It's fine. So, I just, the entertainment industry, I don't get its appeal today. I just do not get its appeal. What's so fun about it? What's so great about it? Other than being able to say, I saw that. Oh, I saw the new thing too. You saw the new thing. Yay, we saw the new thing. Yeah, I heard that apparently the Switch 2 is supposed to be crazy high priced. I don't see any reason to buy a Switch 2 either. I don't really. I played the Switch 1 a little bit. That's pretty much sound engravers. I bought that for her for I think it was her Christmas gift last year or the year before. But and I play it some. I've been playing Luigi's Haunted Mansion 2, the HD remake, and we've been having fun with that. But yeah, I don't think she has any desire for a Switch 2 either. I mean, it's such a no-brainer, but the entertainment industry can't figure it out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many new consoles or how many new special effects or how many new ways to go see a movie or play a game you invent if the content isn't there. I don't need to play the coolest, most innovative gameplay experience or movie going experience or whatever if the story isn't there. And Hollywood can't do that. They don't know how to create good stuff anymore. So it's the industry needs to really tank before we see any change. All right, let me talk about the Batman arc I was going to talk about last time. Let me I forgot to take these issues out of their slipcase or their sleeves here. Let me take these out so the light doesn't glare on them. But I had a little bit of time, and in between my Star Wars reading last week, I'm actually reading some Shadows of the Bat runs right now too to preview or to review for next week. But I went ahead and I realized that there was when I was going through Legends of the Dark Knight, somehow, again, me, dyscalculia, I skipped over 3 issues in my numbering because I was going back and looking at my reviews and because I've been going issue by issue through the Legend of the Dark Knight run, from where it started in the 90s there, and really enjoying it for the most part. And I totally missed the Blades story arc, which is sad because the Blades story arc is really, really quite good. This is I'll show you a cover there that has the characters. This is part 3 of it. So it's a 3-issue arc in Legends of the Dark Knight. And James Robinson is the writer. James Robinson has done some great stuff, Batman, Superman related stuff. And it's Tim Sale. Tim Sale's art here, a little bit more of a subdued Tim Sale. Tim Sale, it's still you can still see it's very much his art style, but he's not being quite as stylized as he is in Long Halloween or some of his stuff with Jeff Loeb. But it's still, you can easily see that it's still Tim Sale's art, and it's great art. It's great art. I love Tim Sale as an artist. So it's good stuff here. Now, this basic story arc, I'm going to try to give you the gist of why I loved it so much, but try not to spoil it for you. There was a Batman villain back in the day called the Cavalier, and he was kind of like a typical, stereotypical old style Batman villain. Very much, he could have been like on the Batman 66 show. That was the kind of style of villain he was. I don't think he never was on the Batman 66 show. But just another sort of, Batman's got a great rogues gallery, and a lot of them came from the sort of a gimmicky origin. What would be a cool, clever, kind of fun, what about a guy who calls himself the Cavalier and uses a sword or whatever, and that was kind of where the character, I think he only showed up 2 or 3 times. And he was just sort of a serviceable little villain to throw in. Well, I don't know if it was James Robinson's idea or not, but somebody had the idea, and James Robinson wrote it and executed it so brilliantly, to bring back this idea of the Cavalier. Now, this is a different Cavalier. He's not the same secret identity or whatever as the Cavalier villain was. He starts out as another vigilante, as another crime fighter, wanting to help Batman. You find out in some of his interiority text caption boxes or whatever that he's an actual he's a film stuntman, and he's trying to get some publicity. And at first he thinks, if I do some, I use his great prowess, his physical prowess, and his fencing abilities and whatnot, and he doesn't kill with the sword. He's very much sort of a Zorro type trickster. He'll slash somebody's suspenders or whatever, that kind of thing. But he's effective. And his plan at the beginning is to start out being the Cavalier, get a name for himself in the news, like, who's this mysterious Cavalier? And then he'll reveal that, it's me, so-and-so, the stuntman or whatever, and he'll get more work. His career will get a huge boost. That's his original plan. But he starts fighting crime, and he realizes how much he absolutely loves it. He just loves fighting crime. He loves the thrill of it. He loves making the difference and whatnot. And Batman is, at the time, Batman's pretty preoccupied with this other this other villain, this murderer who's going after older people, killing off the elderly, with the stated purpose of population control, and these people are so old, they need to make room for other people, horrible, right? But this murderer, this serial killer that Batman is kind of preoccupied with chasing after right then. So Cavalier pops up at a time where he's sort of patrolling the streets and sort of filling a gap that Batman's leaving behind there a little bit. And remember, because the Legends of the Dark Knight tales all happen in the early part of Batman's career. So this is, before he'd necessarily have a Robin or, all these other, people that he could call in and so forth. Batman meets the Cavalier. He tracks him down because, you're going to start fighting crime on Batman's turf. Batman needs to check you out. And it was a really great scene. I don't want to show it because I don't want to give away too much, but Batman basically says, you've earned a chance because you remind me of a happier time. Because as you know, some of the tellings of the story, some tellings it's different, but some of the tellings it's a Zorro movie that Bruce Wayne, the young Bruce Wayne, wants to go see with his parents at the movie theater. So in some tellings, it's a Zorro movie that, is the last movie he sees with his parents before they die and so forth. But even in tellings that use a different film, Zorro and those old style movies, those swashbuckling movies, were a favorite of the young Bruce Wayne. So, Bruce Wayne's like, you remind me of a younger and more innocent time. For that, I'll give you this chance. I I don't want to say, it's so hard because I want to analyze the stories, but the point of these reviews is to just show you good stories that you can go check out. So if I tell you everything that happens in it, then it'll ruin it for you, and I don't want to do that. So I will say that what happens with the Cavalier, his story arc, is a really cool juxtaposition of Batman and Batman's trajectory going into his heroism, his background, where he came from, how he ends up, as Batman. Cavalier has the same sort of not dark mirror in a way that like a villain has, but a really great. I don't know. There's just some really cool parallels. The James Robinson is using the Cavalier to kind of show and shine a light on and make some statements about Batman's own journey in a really cool way. So the writing is great. The writing's tight. The art, as I said, it's Tim Sale, and Tim Sale. No one gets the noir aspect of Batman's universe quite like Tim Sale. It's just great. And that's not just the colors, because let me see who did the colors on this. Did that Tim Sale did the colors on this, or I don't know. It's in the low light right now. I won't be able to find that answer for you probably. Actually, here we go. Tim Sale art, letters. Steve Cliff was colors. Yeah, if the it's either Olaf or Cliff. I can't quite see in this light, and the font's a little weird, but doesn't matter. The art's just great. The art really lends itself to the story. One of the cool things about Tim Sale's, even when he's just a penciler, the way he plans out the panels and the artwork, it's very cinematic. He doesn't like to use a lot of panels on one page. If he does use a lot of panels on a page, it's more like it's more sweeping. Like there's big, huge panoramas and then a couple little panels here and there dotted around it. That's the most he'll go for there, and it does make for a very cinematic read. It almost looks like film cells. Now he uses way more panels in this run than he does when he's working with like Jeff Loeb and whatnot, when he kind of has more freedom to express himself artistically there. But yeah, the art works. The art's 100% in keeping with the story. So I definitely recommend Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Blades is the story arc, and it's basically issues 32 through 34. And to my knowledge, it's never been released as a graphic novel, but the issues have the great Batman Returns, advertisements in the back. And I love this time period because this was just this was the early 90s before grunge came along and ruined music. It was great. It was great. It was a very short little time period there, but that late 80s, early 90s, there was just a magic about that. Just such a magic about it. So that's that. I'll get into some more comic reviews next week as well as hopefully be able to talk about Dark Apprentice, the second book of the Jedi Academy trilogy. I've been doing that. My goal is to play replay Knights of the Old Republic 2, because I still haven't completely exhausted all of the content that they brought back from the old game. You can get the version on the computer, on Steam anyway. You can get a mod on Steam that has a lot of the story from the old game that was latent kind of in the game, but they didn't have time to fully develop, and there's some cool stuff there. I haven't quite played through all of it. I tried playing the Steam version of Knights of the Old Republic, the first one, just for see any little enhancements they might have made or whatever, but it's just awful. This is why I hate computer gaming. I really do. I'm a console guy through and through, because the type of games I play are older games anyway, and it was so buggy. It was so buggy, and I would look up things like, okay, well, clearly I've done something wrong. Maybe there's a mod that fixes this or something, and no, it wasn't. Knights of the Old Republic is just ridiculous on Steam, and people are saying, yeah, well, that's just the way it is when you have an older game. It was awful. I did play through Knights of the Old Republic 2 on Steam once, and it wasn't buggy. I could use my controller pretty decently, and whatnot. So I think I'm going to replay that again. I've been replaying a little bit of Witcher here now and then, just kind of filling the gap. But I think I'm going to probably start Knights of the Old Republic 2 again tonight, play that through, and then pop back into the Old Republic, because the goal is to just kind of bide my time until I finish the Jedi Academy trilogy, and then I really want to play the Jedi Academy games, the video games, because I've never played those two games, which are kind of technically part of the Dark Forces series lineage there or whatever. But so yeah, I'm getting to those eventually. I do have them. I have them for PS4, but I want to go ahead and get the whole story in order as much as I can. So. Let's see. What's going on in the chat here as I've been prattling on? Oh, I got a super chat from Crystal Ashes. Blades. Yeah, no, not that. Not that Blades. Let's see. CBO96 film. Last century, you said you're writing a sort of Bible for a manga. I'm currently in the process of writing. Can't draw for anything, but having fun with. Hey, go for it. When you said Bible for a manga, that actually, I actually have a manga Bible that somebody had, they're giving it away at a con, and for free. I was like, oh, I'll take that, and I'm just not a big fan of the visuals of manga myself. It's not a qualitative judgment. It's just a taste thing. So I never really looked through it all, but it's kind of neat that something like that would exist. Yeah, the Gray Ghost. That was a great addition in the animated series. Of course, the late great Adam West playing him. That was so good. Leia Plus says, I have no plans to see Thunderbolts. It does not matter if it's good or not. It's just bad to me. Don't care for the characters, and they ruin Bucky. I don't understand how I agree with you, Leia Plus says. I don't understand how anybody... I don't care how good the movie is. How can you accept current Marvel continuity? Like, whatever movie you watch, however good, this one movie is or whatever, it's still in the modern crappy Marvel continuity. When they did the reveal and they were expecting everybody to get excited about the new Avengers movie or whatever, like, who cares? Honestly, who cares? It was kind of pathetic, Robert Downey Jr., is the one there in this reveal. I'm like, no one's really excited about that. Even people who say they're excited about it, they're not excited about it. Go back to the, when they were putting out the Avengers movie, or even, Captain America Civil War or something like that, and that was excitement. That was people who loved those characters, who were invested in them already, and that was the real deal. Disney's just going to, Disney is determined to burn down everything it owns before it finally burns down itself. It's determined to take everything it owns down with it. Yeah, Studio 96 PCs are confusing anyways. Yeah. I'm a PC guy in terms of I do PC rather than Mac. But for PC gaming, I'll play an older game, like Knights of the Old Republic 2, if it's where I can actually play more of the game, if some sort of mod has come along or whatever that actually saves the game for you. Yeah, and I'll still fire up Age of Conan every now and then as an older MMO, and Star Wars: The Old Republic. But I'm just not a new gamer. Like, I'm not, I get it. So I understand if you're like a gamer who's playing some of the newest games out, and you got to get this and that mod, and you're somebody who's conferencing in and playing, LAN parties, that shows my age, but, going in and conferencing in with other people and stuff like that, playing, whatever, have fun. But I just, even those MMOs that I play, like Knights of the Old Republic and so forth, I don't like joining up with other players. I really hate it if it's a mission that it requires you to kind of, get a party together and go through, because that takes me out of the story. I just want the story. I want to immerse myself and feel like I'm, in Conan's, Samaria, or in, Star Wars universe or whatever. I don't want, some 13-year-old telling me what he's going to do to my mama, over a mic or whatever, it's just dumb. I didn't even know that, Leia Plus Size. I didn't know that was the the mantra now. Get on my nerves how YouTubers keep saying, "Well, Thunderbolts looks good. Spend your money on that." No, Phase 4 is just crap. Yeah, Phase 4 is just crap. What's the just? Why do you need to go see something new? Well, I mean, of course, those channels need you to go see something new because no one's going to tune into them talking about older stuff like I do here. They gotta keep those revenues up. Baker says, "I want proper Doctor Doom, not Tony Stark cosplaying as Doctor Doom." I never really thought about if none of the other Disney nonsense was taking place, if none of the other Marvel continuity crap was at play, and if it was just RDJ cast as Doctor Doom, I'd give him a chance. Yeah, he's a good actor. I like his stuff. But I don't know how they treat it. I don't know how he'll treat it. So he's not even remotely tempting for me to come and give that movie a chance or whatever. Just not interested at all. This Chozo's Corner says, "Why don't they watch good stuff that's new? They still come out, but don't get marketing." New stuff does still come out. I've talked about some new books and things here and there. I don't really know much in terms of films that have come out. I'm sure there have been some good movies coming out, and I know you guys have mentioned a few of them here and there, but none of them seemed like anything that would really speak to my tastes, I guess, yet. I haven't heard of anything yet that would speak to my taste. Doesn't mean it's not a good movie and that it wouldn't be good for other people to go see, but I'm just saying that's why I haven't necessarily followed a lot of it. Yeah. So yeah, that's really all I had this week in terms of reviews and whatnot. We can, hang out and answer a few questions or whatever, if you want. But yeah, I agree. Leia Plus Size and Electric Barbarella, they destroyed Bucky. They I don't talk about it much because it infuriates me how many people are just like, "Well, I was okay with Sam Wilson getting the shield. I was okay with that." Well, I'm sorry that you're an idiot. I'm sorry that you're an idiot and that you couldn't read the story or the character trajectories. I'm sorry that you have no clue where they were obviously going. I'm sorry that you're okay with that because that's a real problem for you. It just bugs me when people say that. Bucky was in line to take the shield. He didn't have to take the shield. Steve Rogers didn't have to step aside. But if Steve Rogers sets aside, that's the way it happened in the comics, and that's the way the movies were setting the character trajectories up to go. Bucky is on this journey of self-redemption, and after all the things he was made to do and whatnot as the Winter Soldier, and giving him the shield, what an amazing story that would have been, and having him, far more than all of the stupid racial preaching that Cap Falcon wanted to give us, really have a good story about Bucky trying to reconcile the things that have happened at his hand, even if he was hypnotized to or not, with trying to take on this symbol of, such purity and truth and hopefulness. Man, that's a great story. That's a great story. But nope, they decided it would have been much better just to preach some DEI nonsense crap. Yep. Yeah, Ed Brubaker wrote an amazing run. I agree. Absolutely agree. Crystal Ash says, "Why is nobody talking about the day the world blew up?" Oh, right, because Warner Brothers didn't market it, and the so-called fandom menace doesn't actually care about the good stuff. Yeah, I need to watch that myself. I didn't even know it was happening until the news came out that Warner Brothers was turning its back on Looney Tunes. So I do need to watch that and talk about that probably. But who thinks Warner Brothers has got it together? That cracks me up when people are like, "Zaslav's fixing it." Oh, just stop pretending that Hollywood is in a hopeful place. It's not. It's not. Anyway. Oh, that's cool. Because you saw the day blew up in theaters. The Earth blew up in theaters. Yeah, I need to watch it. I do love Looney Tunes. I really do. They were it's just so great. I buy up as many old DVDs as I can, like at thrift stores and whatnot, of some of the collection of issues of the Bugs and Tweety show or something like that, or some of the holiday specials and whatnot. And my daughter loves it too. It's they're classic. That is classic storytelling. That is classic. You know, you look at children's cartoons today, they're awful. Oh, they're so awful. All right. I think yeah, like I said, that's all I've got for tonight. We're nearing the hour mark anyway, 3 minutes away. But next week I'll have more to talk about review wise for you. I'll definitely have some more comics and some Star Wars content and some more things to get through, because this week was just busy. It's coming to the end of the semester, so there's way more grading and last minute stuff. Summer's going to be, I hate summer. Oh, I hate the heat and the humidity in particular where I live of summer. The season itself is just disgusting to me. I loathe the season, but I do get a break from teaching, and that can give me more time if I've got like my bases covered elsewhere, like income wise, because I'm an adjunct teacher, so I don't get like a year-long salary. I teach semester to semester, and most adjuncts don't get summer work, especially in the area that I am, with the universities around and whatnot. That most of them tend to give summer work to their full-time staff or whatever. But I've got things covered. I got some things, some side issues, side little consulting jobs and whatnot, tutoring things and whatnot that go on. So when I've got that covered, it means I've got a little bit more time in the summer to read more, to watch more. And that's really what last summer, that's where I had the time to really dig into the Westerns I did for a while. And then the wonderful monster unit that I did on the channel that was so great from August to through October. That was a lot of fun. I definitely want to do that again this year. I need to find a real angle on it. But man, I had so much fun with that. And people seem to like it on the channel too. So we'll definitely be doing more of that. Oh, here we go. Somebody's wanting to start some drama. Bebop Bandicoot. What is the better series franchise to you? Star Trek, Stargate, or Battlestar Galactica? Stargate, hands down, absolutely no contest whatsoever. I know Trekkies want to burn me in effigy right now for daring to say that. How dare I say that? Blah, blah, blah. But you asked for me. You asked for me. And if it's from my money, Star Trek, the original series, is amazing. And that's it. I don't really care for Next Gen. I haven't watched Deep Space Nine. Some people say I would like that a lot, so I need to watch that. I love the original Battlestar Galactica. I utterly loathe the garbage remake they did in the 2000s. Again, I know people are just wanting to kill me for daring to say that, but you asked what my opinion was on that. Stargate, however, just so good. And I will talk about more when Sound Engraver is watching for the first time the Stargate universe. No, I shouldn't say Stargate universe because we're not watching that series, but the Stargate mythos from SG-1 to Atlantis and everything, and the films that are in between. And we're on like season 4 of Atlantis right now, which is a rewatch for me, but it's her first time watching. So once she finishes out the whole seasons, I will talk about the mismanagement, the really horrible mismanagement from the idiots at Sci-Fi Channel and MGM, the way they just dropped that franchise and left so much money on the table. It's just unbelievable. We'll talk about that, especially with going through X-Files right now and seeing how amazing it was that they were able to incorporate the films into the series and, all that kind of stuff. So I'll talk more about that at a later date once we get through all of the issues, and I won't spoil anything for Sound Engraver. But I think that's it for tonight, guys. I do love Farscape. You guys are getting me talking about the sci-fi stuff. Yeah, Farscape's really great. It deserved a 5th or a 4th season. Was it 4th or 5th season? I think did it have 4 seasons? Yeah. And it deserved a 5th season, if I've got that right. The miniseries is good, and the miniseries does wrap things up, and I like the miniseries, but you could see it did feel a little forced. Like that story it should have been given its whole series to breathe out that final story arc. The comics are quite good though. Rockne S. Bannon and Keith R. A. DeCandido, put out some comics, and the novels and whatnot are quite good. It's a universe that you can really delve into and flesh out. So yeah, I'll talk about that more too. And Babylon 5. That's another great, the original. please, Straczynski, don't ever touch it again. Unless you're going to do something cool like the animated stuff you did. But no, don't bring it back. I don't want you preaching anti-Trump derangement syndrome or whatever through that wonderful, hallowed franchise. So yeah, that's all for now. I hope you guys have a good week. I hope you guys get into some of these great stories, whatever it was that clicked your interest, the Batman, the Star Wars, whatever. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.